Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cow Corner Cricket Cast. I'm your host today, Pratham. I'm not going to be joined by Bharat and Rowan on this particular occasion. They will be tuning in for the England versus New Zealand series, so stay tuned for that. And today we're going to be discussing in particular, the Netherlands versus Scotland first ODI that happened in Rotterdam. That is the first match between these two sides in this two-match series. So, leading up to this particular series, there were a lot of questions in my mind. These are actually fairly new-look squads as well. In the case of Scotland, they've called up three players, Adrian Neil, Gavin Main, who don't have central contracts into their particular squads prior to the start of the series. Netherlands, because of COVID restrictions, they had their A team sort of merge with their regular team, so there were some new players in their ranks as well. And there's also just a personal factor here as well, in that I actually haven't seen these teams play international cricket in a while. Scotland, the last match I saw was that amazing, astonishing upset that he managed to pull off against England prior to the start of the World Cup in Scotland. And in the case of Netherlands, I had seen a couple of one-days that they played against Zimbabwe, but really only highlights. I wasn't able to follow them live. So there was a lot of interest that I had about how these two new-looking sides would go, and how this pitch on the Hazelaarweg, I'm completely butchering the pronunciation of this stadium for the record, but this stadium in Rotterdam, how the pitch would play, right? So there was a lot to look forward to in the lead up to this first ODI. Coming onward to the match itself, I thought it was a pretty interesting match. Fairly closely fought. In the end, Netherlands shading it by 13 runs. I think a huge part of why Netherlands was successful during this match was that one of their top three did fire. Matthew Dowd, a youngster who has only played two ODI matches prior to this, had an average of 145, so pretty decent with the bat. Played very well. There were wickets faltering in the earlier stages around him. Myberg, who is their Netherlands senior pro batsman, got out pretty cheaply, was followed by Cooper, and then a beautiful delivery, absolute brute, a ball that just bounced on Seelaar. Saw him get out for a 3-ball duck to Gavin Main, who was the pick of the bowlers in my opinion. Extracted great bounce from a really high arm action, just full of a length. Looks like a really promising fast bowler in the making. Was actually one of the players that was called up from obscurity with the lack of a contract prior to this match, and I think the way he's bowled, he's definitely going to get a contract. He's been brilliant. But Dowd really shepherding that particular innings, anchoring with an 82 off 102 balls. Played had a very technically competent, very organized. Likes playing down the ground. Not necessarily the best against the short ball, but definitely shades of former Netherlands and Pakistani opener Mohammad Wasim in him. Very technically organized, very competent, good at rotating the strike, good at anchoring in innings like he did, and was crucial in Netherlands getting to that 163 odd score. I mean, in the 33 overs that was allotted. It was a rain affected match, guys. I thought, the other critical factor for them to get to that particular score was Logan Van Beek in the end. Accelerated with a very nice cameo, hit that huge six, which was also good to see. And yeah, I thought in the end, the total that they had was actually a little bit under par, but the pitch was a huge factor in determining this match, right? Because predictions, for the record, guys, before the match were that this is a batting paradise. And it will assist, if any bowlers were going to be assisted, it was going to be the spinners, who are going to get some grip and purchase off the surface. And that's not really what we saw. Yes, there was subpar spin bowling from both sides. I mean, you look at, Hamza Tahir, for example, gave over 7 runs and over, and just couldn't find the cut strip, really. Bowled a bunch of wides as well. And you saw those performances, right, from the spinners being subpar, but really it was also because they couldn't get much of any turn off the surface, right? And really, it was a surface which assisted seam and swing bowling in the first 15 overs or so, on both sides, and both sides did exploit it pretty well. And so in hindsight, 163 for 8 total that Netherlands managed to rack up was actually a pretty decent total given the circumstances. Moving on to Scotland's innings, I thought Scotland started pretty poorly as well. And in the case of Scotland, this match does confirm the problem with them as an ODI unit, right? In that they're very highly dependent on the top three. If Coetzer goes out, fantastic batsman for the record, very aggressive, very likes to use his feet to go down the track, to pacers and spinners alike. Strong with the back foot as well. If he gets out, and then Cross gets out, and then McLeod get out, right? It's really tough for Scotland to recover usually in matches. They're very top heavy ODI unit, and we saw that, right? I think a lot of credit has to be given to Kingma, who again was a tall fast bowler. Got some purchase off this wicket, exploited it, got some really nice outswing going, bowled in the corridor to right and left-handers alike, really caused some problems. And then I thought, his usage up front with those 6 overs by Pieter Seelaar was brilliant. He could have taken him off at 4 or 5 overs, chose to go with that 6, given that each side could only bowl their strike bowlers up for 7 overs. It was a brave tactical ploy, and it worked. They got a couple of wickets they were looking for. And then after that, there was a stabilizing partnership between Barrington and Munsey. Barrington in particular, very severe off spinners, hitting a bunch of 6s off them. But then Pieter Seelaar, who I think was compensating for the fact that he got a duck in the first innings, and had been tactically brilliant thus far with his pacers. Had slips for them even during the middle overs. Decided to throw the rub of the dice and bring back Kingma in the 22nd over, from what I recall, and it worked. Right, pretty much immediately he got a Barrington's wicket, and from there the match was pretty much done and dusted. Because the run rate started creeping up over, that 7 and over rate, went to 9 at one point, and then at the final over, when there was 24 to get, or 23 to get, it really was too much for the Scottish tail, which had come in at that point because they were losing wickets left, right, and center, to do much, right? So, long story short, I think this match was decided by Scotland's inability to stitch together, to have somebody to anchor the particular innings, unlike Dowd, who did do that and was brilliant in performing that particular role. I do think that there are some positives for Scotland from this match going forward, though. I do think Gavin Main is a real promising prospect. Seriously, that guy bowls like Morne Morkel. I definitely see shades of Morne Morkel with just the bounce he's able to extract, and just the length is so right. Like, it's a late stage Morne Morkel when you've figured out how to, pitch it up there and get reap rewards and so forth, right? So I think that's a really promising prospect. Barrington was pretty good in this match for them as well. Bowl trio was pretty economical, so he can be that part-time option, and played well. Even though the spinners weren't getting help, played well against them, and was willing to take charge and take command of this chase that they had to get. Weak points, though, do exist for them, apart from just an off day for their top 3. I think Safian Sharif, who was so instrumental in their winning in that first ODI, was struggling here today to find his line and length. Was a bit erratic all over the shop, really. I do think their spinners are a bigger issue. Watching Watt. I know he took 2 wickets today, but it doesn't really inspire confidence. The bowl's a little bit too flattish to be too successful. I think at this particular level, he's got to improve that, and Tahir needs to really bowl well, find the cut strip more often. I do think similar issues exist for Netherlands as well, but what really pushed them towards the edge and won them this match, apart from Dowd's anchoring innings was Seelaar's captaincy, right? He had some new bowlers coming in, Aryan Dutt and Basta Lead in particular, making their debuts in this particular match. He didn't trust them with a lot of overs today, but he bowled them at decent times in the middle to later stages of the match and didn't put them under significant pressure. His field placements, as I mentioned, to Kingma and Logan Van Beek were pretty good. And his, tactics and his fielding, as a matter of fact, was brilliant, right? There was a catch he took off Kingma to dismiss, if I'm not mistaken, it was Coetza, and it was off cross, and it was brilliant. The catch he took to dismiss off cross was, in particular, a highlight. Just screaming one-handed dive, shades of Dwayne Leverlock in 2007's World Cup. But yeah, I thought it was a really good match. I thought both sides had some positives and negatives to take going forward, and I think that going forward you're going to see a pretty interesting squad. I am interested to see what's going to happen in the second match, what teams these two sides end up picking. And yeah, I mean, long story short, I think we're in for a cracker of a series. So, in summation, well done, Netherlands. Scotland came close, but just fix your issues with the bowling department, and I do think your dangerous top three will fire, and they will win your matches. So stick with them.